What's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. We've got a great podcast in store for you guys today. We got some really talented guys within the industry. Definitely looking forward to getting some ideas out there and having some good discussion. First up, basically getting these guys together. I think we all take the same approach. It's community over competition. At the end of the day, I think we're all trying to achieve the same goal of being able to call something we love work. In the grand scheme of things, we could all be considered competition. However, I think each one of us has realized that we have a better chance of success through community, not competition, which goes against the normal trend within this business. I truly believe that all too often you hear of other companies talking down upon their competition and sort of just trying to take shots in order to secure more work for themselves. I don't feel like that gets you very far, and in my personal opinion, I've seen clients talk about how they didn't book with other companies because of the fact that they were talking down about their competition, even more so than what they actually offer. So to me, it's all about community over competition. I definitely think for me, to get these guys in one room is pretty amazing. Everyone's talented in their own right, and to be completely honest, I thrive on these guys doing big things. What I've seen is that when they do big things, all it does is ends up making me do bigger things, pushes what I'm capable of, and then also adds one more thing to the arsenal of what we can provide all together. I think at the end of the day, we're all guilty of trying to do everything and wanting to make sure everything at an event is as perfect as it could be. I know, for instance, I've seen Jay DJing, taking care of the lights, handling content on the screens, sort of just doing it all. I've seen Mike rock intros and then go right into scratching while he's DJing, not missing a beat, and then grabbing the camera and making sure that he captures that perfect content piece. Then I've also seen Randy MC intros, completely rock the intros while having a club cannon in his hand and the cold sparkler button to make sure that grand entrance is as grand as possible. The funny thing is that each of these guys does this all seamlessly and at a high level. There's not many guys in this industry that I feel can do this at such a high level as these guys can. And that's sort of why I wanted to get these guys together. I feel that they have a different approach. I don't consider us DJs, MCs, in the straight sense of it. I consider us more so event specialists and guys that can sort of handle every aspect of an event. The more we do, the more I think we realize that in order to achieve what we all want to, we have to sort of give some of those responsibilities and let someone else do it. Especially finding those people who specialize in that one thing that sort of brings together that whole experience. I've been on events with each one of these guys, and when we're on events together, it definitely brings it to a different level. It makes me a little bit more relaxed, and it definitely takes a lot of pressure off of me when I have someone that can sort of do and back up everything that I'm capable of doing as well. I think all this does is show how, the whole community over competition, how amazing it is to see if all of us are on an event or one or two of us are on an event together, how big and how different it takes it to a different level. Another thing, like I see in the industry, like that definitely I think these guys don't do, which I like, is there's people in the industry who constantly talk about, how did they get that job? I've been told this before. How did I get a job? And it sort of kills me because at the end of the day, you don't know what the past work was, what they had to do, how many jobs I had to do to get something, how I knew someone in high school who then it turned into something bigger, and just by persevering and I got that job. So it's always interesting how there's certain people within the industry that would rather say and question how they got a job as opposed to really putting in the work and getting something similar or that job themselves. I think the main purpose of this podcast today is to develop a forum to talk about the entertainment industry from the perspective of a couple different companies and a couple different approaches. I think we will discuss what we see as being a trend for being trends for 2019, what we saw in 2018 that we like, that we want to continue to push forward, and what each one of us do to set us apart in the industry, and how we go about handling clients to ensure that we provide the best experience possible, not just at the day of their event, but also throughout the planning process and booking process. I briefly touched on what these guys who are here joining me today, but I'm going to jump in a little bit more. First up, we got Jay Osmus, a.k.a. DJ Super J, who has probably had the most influence on me and my DJ style. Since I've met Jay, I continually push myself to be better and sort of come outside my comfort zone. He's always pushing me to want to do bigger things, and definitely excels no matter what is in front of him. I've seen Jay take a crowd that had no business rocking, and it just turned into something even bigger and better than what it could have been. The best part, I think, about Jay is he's sort of like a chameleon. You could put him in a club, a bar, or a private event, and he truly does have an uncanny ability to read what's in front of him. And he takes the knowledge he has, the years of experience he has, and puts that with the ability to read people, and it really transforms a night. He does all this while also controlling the lights, grabbing the mic, emceeing, and making sure that all the content is as fresh as possible. And then even more so, in the more recent times here, he's also picking up the video mapping and editing skills. And some of the video mapping stuff that he's done already in 2019 is game-changing. The ability to sort of take a blank wall and bring it to life and bring a style throughout a whole event is pretty crazy. Next up, we got Mike West of DJ Experts. I would say for about 3 years now, I've been told that I need to link up with him. I need to see what his capabilities are all about, and really get together. And I got to admit, when we finally did get on a job together, it didn't disappoint. There aren't many people who have the amount of knowledge in as many areas as Mike does. He creates amazing content on the fly and continually pushes himself to maintain a high level of output. He has a piece of equipment for every situation possible. I've never seen someone who could pull out a light and turn a blank room, into what looks to be like you're in Ibiza, and it's only a 4-inch light. It's hilarious. He continually thinks outside the box to provide a full encompassing experience at every one of his events. And I definitely believe that he's able to effortlessly coordinate a night, from emceeing all the way into jumping into the party and taking it to another level with his DJ skills. I'm definitely super excited for what the future has to hold, and develop this relationship a lot more with Mike and see what other secrets he has. I know that in the 2 jobs that we've worked together, I know it's not everything, but I'm pretty excited to definitely foster that relationship. Next up, we have Randy Patrizio of HDE Event Group. Randy's the king of creating that party atmosphere through his energetic music choices, high-energy MC style, and all the necessary tools to provide an experience that you won't forget. Randy prides himself on always having sleek and impressive setups. I don't think there's a time I've walked into a room with Randy and not wanted to take a picture of his setup. It's always on point. No cables all over the place. It looks really good. The other thing that I like, Randy's not afraid to dive into any aspect of the event. Whatever needs to be done on the day of an event, and that really honestly takes a lot of stress off of anyone that's working with him and anyone that is sort of looking outwardly onto the event. You could definitely tell that he's got everything sort of taken care of. I believe that this is a big reason why most of us do well, is we're not afraid to jump in, and we do have a lot of expertise. So it ensures that all of these events are ones that impress. I think another thing about Randy is he has an insane ability to capture the true essence of an event. He's always taking content from the day, and then 2 days later, it's like magically we've got something on social media. And it's not just I captured footage and I'm going to put it out there. It's all stuff that, if you're a client looking inwardly on this, you're like, that's what I want my event to be. So I definitely think these guys all have something super special about them. I know for a fact that it's just continues to get more and more, and that's what I'm most excited about. I definitely have tremendous respect for all of these guys and feel that we all push each other to be better and to do more, and definitely can't wait for the future and to get you guys on more jobs so that we can sort of do this all together and work in a harmonious thing. Again, like I said, more of a community over competition type of thing. I think that's what's going to allow us to get to that final point of where we feel like we've built something that we want to. So as I said above, we're going to jump into a couple things. I really don't want to ask questions. I just want it to be a conversation. I definitely would like to start with 2019 trends. Where you guys see what you've already seen. I know we've already each done a couple events, a couple weddings. What do you guys see as being 2019 trends, and what should brides and grooms be excited about?
Well, I think first I got to shout out our moderator here a little bit. I mean, Tim did just such a great job talking about all the talent that's in this room. You can't forget about my man's talent here himself. He did go back and touch a little bit that, him and I have kind of went through a lot together over the years, and I'm very honored that he has thought so much of what I've done to help him, and, it's definitely likewise. He's definitely taken, I always kind of had the DJing ability, but he kind of brought another side out of me, and more into the entertaining part of it, and the emceeing, and just making sure that everybody's generally going to have a good time. I've never ever been on an event with Tim that everybody didn't have a good time. Why? Because he's having a good time. It doesn't matter whether he's walking into a donut shop or picking up every goofy thing out of a truck rest stop when we're on our way to a faraway event. Mike's pretty good at that too, but that really changed my style and really let me breathe and elaborate into what this business really is, and it's just making sure everybody's having a good time. I mean, beyond being a DJ or an MC or somebody who's doing a light show or controlling the TVs, all that stuff is just simply there for one reason, just to incorporate the party, make everybody have a good time. So before, I wanted to jump into any trends, I think I had to shout out our boy here. I think, just really just a cool idea. This is actually his concept, to sit here and bring, all of us together. And he did say that, we are competition in some ways, but we really all kind of like work together. And I think everybody in this room has a different philosophy than a lot of guys that I've seen in this business over the years. And that, I think we all just kind of want to help each other. And if I can help one of these guys, I know they help me in return, and it just makes all our games stronger, So I just had to throw that in before we get into trends.
We love Tim. So trends, 2019 trends. Where do we start? I mean, technology is definitely a big factor of what's happening these days. Honestly, it's hard to really decide. I mean, for me, for my company, I think our clients, like as soon as our clients walk in the door, we kind of just paint their picture versus pushing a sales on them. But trend-wise, obviously you can see the sparklers every single day, every venue. But I don't know. I don't even know where to start with that. There's so much technology. Randy?
I kind of think in the past years, since I've been working with Tim a lot more, I think as far as like visual stuff like TVs and content, he's introduced me to a lot of stuff like that, like the GoPro live views. Instead of just throwing like their names up on the screens, kind of getting like a photo, cutting it out in Photoshop. And I've been trying to tell my clients now in 2019 that the visuals there's more to do with, now you got the drone work on the screens and you see the people's faces. They're like, wow, how did they get that on there? So I feel like definitely in 2019, like the game for that type of stuff is definitely going to step up. The video walls and the stuff that Jay's been doing with like the projectors and the mapping, I feel like the visual stuff is definitely going to change, and it's going to be something big for 2019 and the future.
Yeah, I think the technology is just incorporating more of people's visions into their own wedding, like there's no other way really that can do what a screen can do to bring people's vision to life, and projectors or whatever you want to do to bring their content to life. And I mean, I think we've all kind of really been taking steps with that in 2018, but I mean, I think we're going to pick up the ball and run it even further for 2019.
Yeah, and that's really honestly what I've seen is that people are becoming a little bit more adventurous, and we're here to sort of foster that ideal. Like if you want your wedding to be a certain way, then why not do it? I think with the way the internet is and how you can sort of go on and say, I want a 1920th century wedding. You can go on and carry that throughout your whole wedding. And to me, that's huge for us as a DJ company. You have the venue. The venues aren't going to change. So then, okay, so how can we bring those venues to a different level? How can we, affect people's experience? And that's definitely what I think, we've all taken a lot of time to try to figure out.
Yeah, and I also think that, you talk about the first dance doesn't have to be the first dance, but, everyone wants to dance in the clouds and stuff like that. Recently, I've been booking a lot of the snowfall effect for the winter weddings. That's something different. And since I booked about 2 or 3 in 2019, I feel like that's going to be something different as well. That instead of just doing the dance in the clouds, why not do the snowfall? Photography and video, it looks amazing. So I feel like snowfall is something, a different approach you can take instead of just doing the clouds that everyone does or the sparklers, or if you want to do the snow and the clouds, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's interaction. I think brides and grooms just want their wedding to be interactive. And I think by doing the sparklers, by doing the dancing on a cloud, by doing the snowfall, you sort of create a different atmosphere, and you're basically allowing people to step away from the fact that we're inside a venue, and you're bringing them to a different place, really. And for the first dance, like you said, I mean, the pictures, the video, it just enhances all of that. And at the end of the day, you walk away, and if your pictures and your video don't really show that style, there's really no other way to capture it. I mean, your memories are only so good if you don't capture it in photo and video. I think that's important.
I mean, I think you hit a really good point when we're getting to all this technology and to all these extras that we are involving to engage the people in the weddings, is that, like you said about being an event specialist before, and I think that's something that can't go unsaid in talking about this. And I think anybody that's listening to this podcast will get the concept of how into all this stuff we are. And it's important that we're all into it because we have to put this together seamlessly. If you hiring a bunch of different people to do a bunch of different jobs and expecting them all to be able to come in at your wedding and put it all together seamlessly and make it look like it was supposed to happen that way, it doesn't work. You have to have people that are knowledgeable at all aspects of what we just talked about. Randy was talking about a first dance. It's incorporating fireworks, snowfall, and dancing on the clouds. Plus, you have your regular DJ music that's going on in the background. You have your MC hosting it. So the fact that, all 4 people that are in this conversation right now can choreograph that whole thing together and actually almost run all of it, each one of us. And that's something that's very important. You see people, some DJ companies bring in some stuff and bring in other people to do things. And, I just don't believe that that's, the way it should be. And I think, the companies that are going to continue and the individuals that are going to continue with a lot of success in 2019 are the ones that can put all these things together as a seamless operation.
Yeah, I think you definitely nailed it. I mean, it's more than just being a DJ, especially, like Randy brought in. The production value is so much for a client these days. Like, I get clients in here, they've been to X amount of weddings, and they're like, well, I don't want everything that I saw here. What can we do different? To be honest, I got a client that came in that's like, we want a Star Wars-based wedding. So we're doing all John Williams, introductions, ceremony music. It's crazy. It's pretty crazy.
The right guy.
Yeah, exactly. And then when we do intros, we got lightsabers and stuff like that. And then what effects can we do to bring in to enhance that vision versus all right, this is just what we do. What do you want from this? I mean, painting the picture for the client is everything for us. I'm like, listen, I want that client to get everything that they want But at the same time, I don't want to pitch something and have them have buyer's remorse. You know, you want to sell them something like, hey, you guys need TVs for da-da-da-da, and they're like, what do we need TVs for? And then next, you know, you lose that connection with that client because they think you're pitching to them the whole time. I mean, end of the day, I think you just really just need to take care of your clients, but bring in, like Jay said, just being very multi-talented to do so, because the more you know what's going on, the more you have the ability to make their vision come true, which is super dope. I mean, like, I love it. I personally am just like a nerd when it comes to all the technology. I really can't help myself. But at the same time, like, look how fast technology runs. Like, you know, we went from 2 years ago having to set up controllers to just control lighting, and I can use an iPhone today. You know, it's pretty hectic. It's pretty cool. So, I mean, I'm excited for 2019. Even, you know, 2020 is going to be out of control. But what do you think, Randy? I can't wait to see some of the stuff you do, man, from already.
I mean, I was going back to what you were saying as far as instead of just selling them the TVs, I feel like they gotta want it, and I feel like you can't just shove enhancements and all this production out there if it's not gonna fit their wedding. And going back to saying like the picture perfect type thing, it's like you gotta show them how it's gonna work and how that, you know, if they have this stuff to put on the screens or if it's gonna work at their venue, this and that. You can't just. I've seen companies out there just provide this whole production, and then like there's things that are not on point. You know, this is going wrong. This didn't go off. This didn't happen. And going back to what Jay said, it's you got to know what you're doing. I feel like a lot of people don't understand the behind the scenes work of, you know, making sure everything works and works at the same time, and making sure the lights are the right way and the music's on point. I feel like a lot of people just don't understand that it's a lot of work behind the scenes. And you see people just walk in and they see this amazing setup, but they weren't there to see all the effort and stuff we put into it. And I feel like everyone here, we put in so much effort. Not saying that other companies don't, but I just feel like we have so much dedication to this craft that's why our events are like close to perfection or perfection.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think you touched on something really big there with the TVs, and I think it's a huge trend for 2019, and that's the content. You know, you said it in just what you were talking there, and the screens and all the visual things that are added are really only as good as the content that's used on them. And, you know, that's why, like, all of us that are here are graphic designer backgrounds, camera backgrounds, video backgrounds, and it allows us to incorporate the content on the screens. I mean, listen, anybody could buy an 80-inch screen, but it's what you do with the 80-inch screen or what you do with the big screen and how you make those screens make their day better and make that party about them. You know, and I think that's really important, and I think that's gonna, you know, really separate, you know, the difference between a DJ company and an entertainment company. A DJ company could play music. An entertainment company and an event company can bring the vision to life.
Yeah,
and,
I like that.
You know, when Randy said the word content, is just like the light went off, and like that's really what it's all about.
How about you see this beautiful setup, right? Beautiful setup. And then we all know that typical Apple slideshow that does the photos, that pans. You're like, wow, that looks sick. Those TVs. I just saw their video of their wedding they just did. And then you're looking at this, then you're like, dude, that's that Apple slideshow. That's free on everyone's Apple computer. And you're like, wow, so you just paid a ton of money for this content that you could have just did yourself. You know.
What about the desktop? Oh, the desktop. So I definitely think too, like with it, you can have great content, but also one of the biggest things I've seen is that you need to be able to bring that content seamlessly from one platform to another. All too often you get where people switch and the black glitchy screen, the TVs, and people might not notice it, but for me, I notice it. And I think if, you know, it's a shame when you get all this great content and then for 10 minutes of the wedding, it's someone's desktop on a screen. It's just like, to me, it's crazy because it's paying attention to details. And I think what happens is that sometimes there isn't enough content. I know for me, preparation is huge. You know, leading up to the day of a wedding, like, you know, there's the booking process, there's the planning process. But for me and for you guys, I'm sure there's the preparation process where I'm sitting behind a computer and trying to be ahead of the wave so that when I get to someone's wedding, if we're providing TVs, if we're doing content, that I have enough already right off the bat. Now, then you mix that with live view, with the same day drone shots or, with other content, then I have an abundance of stuff. And that to me is huge. But, the problem is that people don't really know right now, why would I, like Mike said, why would I want TVs at my wedding? And I think that like sort of leads into how do you guys feel like you're able to portray why? And if they're asking why, do you feel like you need to, enlighten them? Do you think like, because for me, it's like if anyone's seen a wedding where we've done a full production, they understand why you would want TVs. And I think that with social media, it is shrunk the whole entire industry. So when someone posts a picture and you, like any one of us could say, oh yeah, they got married here, they got married there. But when you add the element of that content and the TVs and all this stuff, you sort of change it. It's no longer a cookie cutter wedding. It's a once in a lifetime wedding, once in a lifetime experience, something that you really honestly can't replicate. So that's why I think like that's really important. But what I have a problem is if someone says, well, why would I want this? What do you feel the best way? Like I think sometimes showing them a video of how something works isn't always the easiest way to get them to understand. So like, what would you guys say is a better way of doing it?
I feel like now with the TVs, there's so much more. Before it was just candids, montage, and pretty much that's it. Name, that's it. Now, Tim, like you said, you got the GoPro, the drone, and all this stuff. You have so much more. And to touch base on something else, back at my cousin's wedding that you and Jay did, what I thought was unbelievable, I think you should bring back, is before the bride and groom came down, I think you had Jared up there with a live view of the bride and groom, kind of like a sporting event when like the football team before they come out, you see like inside the locker room type stuff. And I feel like stuff like that is awesome, and that's like why you should have, or one of the reasons you should have the TVs, because we can incorporate stuff like that.
Also, yeah, I like exactly what you just said, which is super dope. You're creating like for example, when you're sitting in a banquet hall, not everybody can see what you're seeing or where you're standing. It's cool to have the TVs for the live content, which I love. I totally love that. The whole, like you said, the sporting event, bride and groom are hanging out, they're ready to come in there, gets the whole room fired up. It creates like, you're having a party. It's not just like, hey, we're here to show up and just do cool stuff. We're here to throw a party, and having that effect of like the anticipation buildup is super dope. For me, my clients, what I usually do is I question them. I go, why do you want this? I'm like, you want TVs, or what are the cases? They see all this stuff online. I'm like, why do you want this? Let's talk about your banquet hall. Let's talk about why you want that and what we can do with it. I was like, I sometimes undersell myself, and I'm like, well, we'll bring back the TVs. Like, if you got TVs, like, what do you want these TVs for? What are we going to do with them? Do you want just photos from when you guys, met each other up to now? I'm like, what do you guys want to do with it? And then from there, we pitched ideas of like doing the live feed or whatever the case may be, just to bring the event to life versus just being another job, But like I said, sometimes I undersell myself because I question the client. I'm like, what do you really want? Like, why do you want TVs, or why do you want sparklers? Why do you want Dance on Clouds? And let them question it. Sometimes they go, I don't know, it just looks cool. And then we break down the venue, and maybe the venue cannot accommodate what we're trying to do. I'd rather make something work and be perfect than sit there and throw all this technology onto them and sit there and run around with my brain. Like, I've been to venues where, you're running out of electricity. You're like, I got things, I got cases just set up just for separating all my electricity, like sparklers and Dance on Clouds machines. Try to pump that through one outlet. You're running risk, man. Right. So it gets crazy. So that's why I question the clients. I want to do something that works and it's going to have a great end result versus, hey, check out my paycheck today,
I mean, I think it's okay that they don't use the TVs, and that's why we all believe that too. If that's not something that the client doesn't want, then it's definitely not something that we would push on them, But what winds up happening is when you do talk to people, there usually always is things that those TVs can come into use for. They like the live view and the fun that can have, And it's also bringing moments to life. It's more than just showing pictures. So many people get great engagement shots done. and they show maybe one goes in the invitation or a save the date, then where do they go? We make a beautiful slideshow. Those pictures are
Your slideshows are beautiful.
perfectly
So good.
perfectly meant for being displayed. So now we could take 10, 15 of those awesome engagement photos that you're probably not going to use the rest of your life, and we can have those running in the background, and everybody comes in the room and looks at them and oohs and ahs at them. And it really lets you take advantage of that. And, one of the other things we like to do with the pictures is that, the parent dances, we like to incorporate them in it. And, the parent dances, for anybody who's ever been in a wedding or been a part of it, the parent dances can get a little awkward.
Try to keep them short.
Yeah, but now we give it another reason to make those parent dances special. 30 seconds into the parent dances, now we start rolling the pictures of baby pictures in the background. And now it takes a little of the pressure off of you dancing with your parent. You can enjoy it a little bit more. It can go on a little longer. And it really, really brings that moment out. I don't think I've seen a parent. I mean, Tim will attest, to all the weddings we've done. I don't think I ever see a dry set of eyes when the baby pictures start rolling behind the parent dances.
And it's important, too. This is something I tell every single bride and groom I meet with. We did an event where the bride did not want to dance with her father. Hadn't talked to her father in quite some time. They had whatever issues they had. No, it's not uncommon. We deal with this on a regular basis. But right before we did introductions, she said, "You know what? I want to do the first dance, but I only want to do 30 seconds." And I was like, "Fine, no problem. We'll do 30 seconds." So we literally get them on the dance floor, we play the song, and all of a sudden it was like just something I had seen. I was like, there's no way I can cut this at 30 seconds. Something's happening on the dance floor. And it's all too often brides and grooms are like, I really just want to blow through that. And I let it go a little bit longer. Now, fast forward a little bit here. They danced for 3 minutes, 37 seconds. At the end of it, she came running up to me and said, "Thank you so much. That's the first time in 32 years my father ever said, 'I love you and I'm proud of you.'" And that moment would have never happened if we cut it at 30 seconds. But it's because you sort of take that awkward feeling out of it and you read it. I mean, we're always on. Just because there's a dance going on doesn't mean that we're off doing something else. We're always on. We're always trying to figure out what's going on and reading the situation. And this was one of these things that ever since that happened, I've been such a proponent of what Jay's talking about, because it's a moment that you're never going to have again in your life. I know when I got married, when I danced with my mom, I still can go back to that exact second. Whenever that song comes on the radio, I immediately go back to that. So it's important. And I definitely think it's a nice time for the bride, for the groom to dance with their parents. And any way we can sort of take the spotlight off of them a little bit, I think is important. I definitely think it adds a lot to the wedding. And like I said, on that one example, that would have never happened. And that to me is a huge breakthrough.
I mean, I really think that's been a game changer for us, incorporating the growing up pictures throughout the parent dances. I just think it takes a little of the pressure off of the bride and groom for that day, because it's always kind of an awkward moment. You just said it, dancing with their parents. It's just so much going on for brides and grooms that day, and they want to rush through the parent dances. We always find that, but those moments, like Tim said, I mean, how many years are we going back now, and you still remember it, So anything we could do, and I think it goes back to our overall thinking. I mean, I think we're gonna probably go back to this a lot as we get through, the continuing this forum of the podcast. Is that, we're just there to create moments. You just used two examples of different ways to create moments. One of them is by you calling an audible and feeling what was going on, which is so important. You were connected to the event, and you were able to see what was happening, and you were able to go off script, and your experience will change their whole day, and so that's part of it, being able to enhance the moments that a wedding can offer. But the other is preparation, just like designing the slideshow with the pictures, ahead of time, so that, we know that that's obviously going to help, and lighten the moment, make the moment better. What do you think?
I think going back to like the pictures, putting them during the dances and stuff like that, I think this is for future brides, because I've had weddings where I reach out to client 3 or 4 times. I need these pictures. I want to do this. I want to do this for you.
I just don't care that much.
Yeah, or it's okay. I don't feel like it. Listen, if you're gonna have the TVs, take full advantage. Send the engagement pictures over. So let us do our work to enhance your wedding and make it that much better. But then you coming to me like I keep even the day before your wedding. Hey, can you just send something over so I can create something creative instead of just having your names? Because at the end of the day, we don't want people just to see their names on a slideshow. We're more capable of that. And then it just goes back to taking full advantage of the TV package and the content and what we can do. So I think for all future brides and grooms that are listening to this, make sure you send the content in, because we can do some really awesome stuff.
Yeah, and I think if you explain sort of what we're trying to create, but you still run into that. I mean, you run into that with every aspect of a wedding. Yeah. Whether it be, brides and grooms just getting so bogged down and busy with other stuff. I mean, in 2019, it's crazy. It's like, oh, we're going here on our bachelorette party. We're going here on our bachelor party. It's not, you're no longer, it's not just like your wedding day. Oh, we went to Atlantic City for 2 days and that was my bachelor party. It's like, no, we're going out to like Colorado for a week. And it's like, wow, but that's the standard is sort of a lot different. But people get so caught up that sometimes I think they forget about these details. I mean, the best is like when I get that, so what do you guys want to be introduced to? It's dealer's choice. You guys can pick. And I'm like, but no, like, what do you like? I don't want to play jock jams if you guys aren't into like that type of music.
What's your intro song?
Yeah.
Oh, you pick it.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. I mean, I spend so much time trying to explain why these details are important. It's just really funny, like Randy said. You just sometimes people get busy. I think they truly get busy. They get bogged down, and they don't see the true reasoning behind it. So we definitely, I try to work hard to bring so to educate the clients so that they know why we're asking for certain stuff. And then there's stuff that's like the day of where it just so happens that we capture a crazy moment or, a cool ring shot or something that happens. And it's like, we want to put that up because I think at the end of the day, it just enhances the whole event. And for me, it's all about interactions. I've started in 2018. I was real big on who at your wedding is going to change it? Like, is Uncle Barry that's 500 pounds and thinks he can dance but is the worst dancer ever? I mean, Jay laughs, but we've seen weddings where the Uncle Barry got out during shout, and that wedding went from one thing to a completely different level.
0 to 100.
Yeah, real quick. So it's definitely interesting, and that's something that I think it's all about interactions. It's all about engaging your audience. As much as it's a wedding, at the end of the day, it's a production. What we put into it, I truly believe, is a production. Even when it's no TVs and no, glitz and glam or bells and whistles, it's still a production. It's you make stuff that's seamless. You don't want people to feel like they're going from one section to another section to another section. You want it to just be seamless, and you want people to sort of forget that they're even dancing, and they're just out there, and they're just having a great time. You don't want them to think okay, after this song, I'm going to go sit down. It's no, we want to encourage it. And I think through the fact of how we all are as our style, it sort of makes that hybrid between using the music to our advantage and using using our MC ability. And I think that's big. I mean, I know Jay, when I first started, Jay was super big on teaching me how you can affect people through the music. Not necessarily MCing or using your words, but how you can really affect the mood of people. And I know he's going to touch on it a little bit more, but I know when I first started, I was more about crafting a night and programming than anything else throughout the night.
Well, I mean, as I've kind of grown in doing events and weddings over the years, you just kind of want to get the most possible out of the crowd. And when I was younger, it was just about formatting the music format, and it still is. That's still like the meat and potatoes, let's just call it, of the plan of how to make a good wedding. But now it's emceeing more, and it's content use, and it's just the order of events, and taking advantage of the opportunities that a wedding gives you. Just like Tim touched on, if you see that Uncle Barry's the party starter, or Aunt Susan, or Grandma Betty that's 90 years old that gets out and does well, I wasn't going to say the chicken dance, but she goes out on the floor and does 25 seconds of the twist. The emotion that causes, like, the rest of the relatives are just compelled to come up and be a part of it, and how that just gets the party up and running, and every wedding's different. So, like, you kind of have to watch it develop, and then just try to, like, take it as far as you can get it. And that's, like, all I really try to think of doing at a wedding is just, like, what can I do and to make that wedding be all it could be? Whether it's music, whether it's emceeing, order of events, making sure that the venue is on time with with the event schedule, which is important too. If a venue is a little bit off, it really helps that a DJ MC can kind of help keep the wedding, the party on track. That we're not sitting too long for dinner, or that we haven't had too long gaps between things. But that's really just the most important thing I think I could touch on, is that I just want that wedding to be all it can be, and whatever it takes at that point. Some of it be through preparation. That's getting the music list ready and trying to envision the bride and grooms, their thoughts, and bringing that to life. The things they've told you they wanted, things they've told you that they didn't want, and feeling out the crowd on the fly. Are they reacting more toward music's a little bit older, a little bit more fun? Is it a younger group of audience that wants newer stuff? And just trying to just keep pushing to get the most out of that wedding. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. What you got, Mike?
End of the day, I mean, to simplify it, I think it's just we care. Like, it's more than just a job for us. Like, don't get me wrong, the glitz and glam and all the fun stuff we do is, like, fulfilling for us. Like, when I do cool stuff, it's super fulfilling. It's more than just, like, hey, like I said, collecting a check. Like, when I sit with my clients or just deal with any client, like, I care. Like, I envision their wedding. I think I get more excited about their wedding than they actually do sometimes. And then, it gets them hyped up. And like you said, back to all the stuff that you guys were talking about, like, 500-pound Larry, Uncle Larry, like, he's out there killing it. People are looking at him probably like, not the stereotype or whatever, but like, oh, this guy, like, I don't think he's going to dance tonight. But when he goes out there and kills it, people are like, listen, he's out there killing it. Like, why aren't we partying like that? Like you said, like, it's little stuff like that like enhances it, like, and that's what gets me excited. It's like when you get people out there and you're like, wow, like, who would have thought? Who would have thought this guy's out there just ripping right now? And that gets the energy in the room. That gets you fired up. It's fulfilling. It's more than just like, like I said, we all care. Like, that's why everything needs to be perfect. Like, on my end, everything needs to be perfect. Like, the littlest things. Like, I'll go back and double check every stupid little thing just because I care. Like, nothing more than that. Is just like, it's your wedding day. We plan it in such a far advance. Like, you do it so far in advance. Like, if you didn't care or the clients didn't care or whatever, do it next weekend. Have it at Firehouse. But you're doing it. They're planning it. They're choosing you. Got to do it right. And like, once you forget that as an entertainer or doing production, once you forget that, like, why even be in this business? You're just collecting checks now. Which I feel is just the wrong reason to. I love it. I love what we do. It's fun. Super fun.
I just got to jump on that for 1 second. Like, one of the great coolest things about being in a room with the 3 other guys I am right now is that I know that any one of these guys, if something wasn't right at a wedding, none of us would be able to sleep. And working in this business a really, really long time, there's a lot of guys I know that don't act like that. And I, genuinely know, me personally, if anything is ever not, and I don't mean like really bad wrong, just not as good as we could have done it, I can't stop thinking about it. It ruins my night, my week, and that's where the detail comes in, because you just got to get it right. It's too important to people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the same way. I mean, if a dance set doesn't go the way I want it to, I see a couple people walking off. My guys are like, "Why do you look so aggravated?" You know, I'm like, because I want everyone on the dance floor. I want everyone to have a good time. And like sometimes I won't even eat the main course. I'll just sit by my computer figuring out, okay, well this didn't work. Let me try and figure this out. Get like a prep list going, because like if you know, just to try and make the wedding that much better. So I mean, going back to what
I've
Mike
been there for both of these, and I do believe the reason I'm still around is because I sometimes diffuse or change or put a smile back out there. But it's definitely, like Randy was saying.
Yeah, I've definitely texted Tim a couple of times, said this wedding didn't go the way I wanted to, and he's just like, listen, calm down, it wasn't you. And I feel like we're like really hard on ourselves because, like Mike said, like we actually care. We're not just showing up for a paycheck. You know.
How about those times that you're like, you're like, man, I feel like it wasn't great, but the client's like, yo, you killed it.
Exactly.
And like in your head, you're like, oh man, but like, that's how you know you care. Even when I do every event I show up to, I show up on edge and nervous until everything's set up and ready to go. I'm like bugging out in a sense, like, dude, I don't believe there's cookie cutter patterns in a wedding, in the wedding industry, at least, should we say. Like you can't show up and do the exact same thing at every single wedding, at every single venue with every single client. Like, I feel that's just not a real life thing. That being said, that's why I'm always on edge. Like, listen, I'm on edge because we don't know what's going to happen next. Things change real quick. Right. I've had bridal parties completely flip on you right before intros. How's that feel? Especially I use an iPad and I'm like, all right, boom. And I'm trying to draw on this iPad. And I'm like freaking out. But until that's perfect, like I'm still on edge. But brings back to the caring aspects. If you're not on edge, you don't care. If you're like, I've done this before, I don't care. Let's get through this. And like you said, like, how many times like you've DJ'd sets where you're just like, dude, like, like, yeah, why can't I hold these people right now? And you're like, and everyone else is like, dude, you're killing it. You're like, no. They're like, I'm not killing it right now. I need to kill it harder. No, and that's what's up. I respect that. Like no other.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, and I know for a fact that Jay and I personally have been on events where if we weren't doing this for as long as we've been doing it, we would have gave up. But we stuck through things and found that one little window that we could get in. That's all I need is one little window. And it was crazy. It was like the rest of the party was just like, insane. And sometimes it's just a matter of that, not really a dancing crowd or finding what intrigues them or, Uncle Barry starts the party. It's just one of those things. But I think that's, the time that we've put in, the time that we've invested in this industry is you can see that through some of the things. And it also goes to like, all too often I always laugh when I see someone who's like, yeah, I rocked it. Rocked every party. Like 2018, I rocked 27 parties. Like every single one was rocked. And it's like, I learned. I think one of the biggest things that I learned from Jay taking away was, yeah, you might have rocked it, but Jay always used to look back on an event and be like, but what could it have? Which part of it could I have done to take it to that even next level? And it's all about like Mike, like Randy, like Jay said, it's all about caring. I know, like for me, it's huge. I mean, I think for me, it's tough because I'm so involved sometimes that I don't allow myself to go down a hole of, I care, but I can't like I just have to keep going. And I think for me, it was like it's always like, okay, so this went this way. How can I get it so that the next set we take a lesson from that first set and then make it even better, so that no one even remembers that set. Like Mike said, every event is so different. It's not the same. And to be honest with you, if you can't read these different little changes throughout the night, you're gonna fail. We've had tons of people come up to us all the time and be like, we'll walk away and we'll say, well, we did it right. It was all right. And then you have people who are like, that was the best wedding I've ever been a part of. And it's surely because putting in that effort to just constantly, like, it's a 4-hour party. Put in 4 hours of work. When it's downtime, when they're eating dinner, I'm not like, oh, I got to go run and get my dinner so that I can eat. It's more so like, all right, so before I do anything, let's set up how we're going to go about this. You know, like Jay said, it's huge that you have a relationship with the catering hall. If they need 5 more minutes, you don't want to sit them. When I first started, I always remember there were certain venues where they'd say, all right, 5 minutes till dinner. And I'm like, don't give me a heads up until dinner is literally coming out of the room, because it would be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and no one's going to look at that and go, hey, guess what? The catering hall messed up. They're going to look at it and they're going to say the entertainment company has no clue what they're doing and sat everyone for 20 minutes. So essentially I'm paying for people to sit at their tables, because they don't, you know, like some people just don't know. They don't know that there could actually be that type of, you know, disconnect. But I definitely think like having a relationship with venues. I mean, I don't know what you guys do when you haven't been to a venue. At this point, there's not a ton of venues that we haven't been to, but anytime we go, you know, like I come down where you work, or I go out to PA or, you know, stuff, I definitely think there's that little dance you have to do where you feel it out. I mean, sometimes I'll go ahead of time. Sometimes I try to always call, so at least I know what I'm walking into. But what do you guys, like, you know, if you're walking into a new venue or someone that you haven't necessarily worked with, what do you guys do?
Well, I mean, I think I take this page for learning from Tim here. You just first of all have to walk into the venue and really be nice to everybody, because anybody that's your friend, you want to get everybody on the venue on your side, and they want, you know. We know that we're professional, but we have to make that across to the venue so they understand too, and that they generally realize that we are there just to make sure the client have a good time. We're not there to, you know, just collect a paycheck, as Mike was saying before. So we try to make friends with them, get to understand it from their point of view. I mean, we've been doing it for so long. I understand what a catering hall goes through, you know, and the different things that can arise with the catering halls, you know. An issue in the kitchen that delays them a couple minutes, you know. An issue with, a lot of times there's room changeovers from cocktail hours to receptions, or if your ceremony was in the same venue, you know. And I try to be very conscious to that and talk to the people and try to understand their game plan, so that, you know, I've already obviously talked to the bride and groom, so my number one job is to execute their plan. But, you know, I have to execute it within the, confines of the venue. So just making friends with them, getting everybody to understand the main mission. You know, I think the DJs always take it a lot more personally to the clients than the venue ever will. So you kind of have to just put yourself in a position that you're going to be the quarterback of that whole day, you know. And it, you know, it also goes to working with the photographers and the videographers. You know, a venue can just throw you an audible and be like, okay, well, we're doing a cake now. Well, you know what? I got to respect the bride and groom and be like, well, listen, just give me a second. Let me make sure our photographer, our videographer is ready. Because I've had venues do that to me. Okay, the cake's out on the floor. We have to do it right now. Do you not see that the photographer and the videographer are still sitting at dinner? Do you really want me to cut their cake before your photographer gets up? You know, so that's super important. You know, it got off subject a little bit with, you know, how we deal with a new venue, but it's just kind of going back to like to showing that the bride and groom how much like you need a guy at your point that's looking out for your best interest. You know, and I think all these guys will elaborate on that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Jay said, being friendly is definitely key, because you need to work together to make sure the bride and groom have the best day ever. You know, if you're colliding with each other, you know, if you're friendly about it, if the maitre d' says, listen, I need you to do 2 more dance songs before main course, okay, no problem. You need to work together to perform the best event ever. That's why I think you can't go in there thinking like, oh, you know, I'm this hotshot DJ, I'm not going to listen to what he says. If I want to do one more song, I'll do it. Because you're not really there, you know, you're, like Jay said, you're there for the client. And you need to work together. So being friendly is definitely...
I agree with that, but I take a little bit of a different approach. When I always show up super early, of course, and we all do. You know, it's funny. It's a given. We don't have to talk about how early we show up, but it's like obnoxiously early. But when I show up, like you said, we care about the clients. End of the day, we're gonna bring care. Care is like our key word today. But when I show up to a venue and I can tell the banquet manager just doesn't care, I bust their chops. I really do. And if anyone that works for me, they're like, dude, you're being hard on this guy. But because at the end of the day, we're team bride and groom. Like, they pay us, we're there to be there. When I show up and there's things aren't right from what the bride told me, I'll address it, even though it's not necessarily my priority, whatever the case is. But the clients are paying us like good money. Like, we get paid good money to be there. So I'm always super nice. And at the end of the day, I always end up being nice while things are working out. But I've had banquet managers, this complete disaster, and I bust their chops. I'll literally bust their chops, and they'll tell me one thing, and I'm like, "Are you sure this time?" And I'll just get in their face a little bit and let them know that, like, you're being held accountable too. Don't think because you're up here, no one else is looking down on you. And I do that. And I do that all the time. But most of like some of the places that we work at, they're nicer venues. They're on point. Like, you show up to places and they're completely killing it, and you're like, I like working here because this guy's a prick. And usually when they're a prick, they're on point with their staff. Right. But then you show up to like a new place that you've never been for, or it's like a new banquet hall. Some of these banquet managers, man, you're like, yo, like, have you done this before? Like, right. I'm gonna. Here's the timeline that you gave me. I'm gonna bust your chops when it's not on time. Because it's like, you have that time frame where you have for the bride and groom to dance or whatever the case is. When they start messing that up, you're like, guys, like, listen, like, you told me this in the beginning. Let's stay on top of this. And it puts them in check a little bit. And it lets them know, like, hey, listen, because, I feel bad for some of these DJs that aren't professionals, that don't understand this. And like you said, they'll be sitting there, they'll put them down. Next, you're sitting down for 10 minutes before dinner even comes out. And you're like, dude, like, yo, what are you doing? Like, like, these young kids that are coming in this industry, becoming DJs, they're like, that's how they're being treated in this game or that banquet hall. So, like, I always like to put some of the banquet managers in check. People have seen, like, my ex-business partner, man, I've literally had scenarios where they're like, we don't have a table for you. And I was like, that's interesting. I see a ton of tables here. I just went through that back hallway. There's plenty of tables. Well, the client told us that you didn't need a table. I'm like, whoa. Talk to me. We're here 2 hours in advance. Let's figure this out. I've literally fought with banquet halls over a table. I'm like, yo, like, it's cool. I get you want to fight with me and stuff, but I'm not here for you. I'm here for the client. So, end of the day, we always have a table, but I just like to bust their chops. But I mean, end of the day, you still got to be nice. You got to respect that you're in their territory. I do agree with that. But some people just don't like to do their job right, and it's so frustrating. Like, they're just there to collect a check, or they've never done it before. I don't know if you guys experienced that before. That's pretty rough.
Well, I'm sure you've saved the bride and grooms numerous times, because if a banquet manager is treating you like that, I can't imagine that they really have the best interest of the bride and groom at heart. And at least the bride and groom could take some good thoughts in knowing that at least the people that you're looking at right now talking do care enough that they will go above and beyond if we have to, to make sure that things get seen through the right way,
Even vendor meals, like, I hate to say, like, if my client says, hey, listen, we got you vendor meals, and they don't have vendor meals, I let the client know, listen, they didn't feed us. Like, not it's like we not want to be fed, but the client paid for that. Like, honestly, if anyone ever sees me eat, I eat like 2 bites and I run back out there. But if the client's paying for that, and they don't have anything, I'm like, yo, don't let them charge you for that. I'm like, that's money that you shouldn't be wasted. Like, that's kind of messed up. And like, this is where I'm always like team bride and groom all day. Like, I'll go fight with a banquet hall all day long if the client's not getting what they were promised, which I think is super important, But yeah, that's just how I tap into it. That's why sometimes I'm a little bit of a prick, but it's for the best. It's for the best. Like, I'll be a prick to the point where once things start going in order, I'm super cool with them, crack jokes with them. I'm like, yo, remember that one time you guys did this? Or joking like 10 minutes ago, and they're like, yo, you're a jerk. I'm like, I'm just messing with you. Like, let's just have fun,
And as the relationship progresses with, with the venues, like, it's awesome when a venue, when a banquet manager will come up to me and be like, listen, why don't you keep them on the dance floor another 10 minutes? Like, maybe there's a lot of older people up there, and that maybe this might be the only chance that the older people get on. Keep them another 10 minutes. We'll hold dinner back, and that's when it really becomes great, when you know that the catering venue respects you and respects the client enough to see that, like, they're going to alter things a little bit here and there just because they want to make the day better,
Yeah.
So, we get the opportunity to work with some people like that, which are great. And then, of course, there's other ones that don't give Mike the table, that upset everybody else. But
mind blown. I'm like, listen, you don't really need it, but I'm going to bust your chops.
But either way,
you don't have it.
but either way, like, behind it on our end is just trying to make the day better, whatever we got to do for it. Whether we got to fight with people, be friends with people, suck up to people, put people in check. Whatever we got to do to make your day better, is kind of what we're what we're about.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I'm a nice guy.
As long as you got your table.
Just do your job right.
and give them a table.
Just care. Just care as much as I care.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think definitely like that relationship is important, and like Jay touched on, there's going to be parts throughout the night that you want them to be in your corner. Look, there's been plenty of times where you struggle the first set, the second set you get them up dancing and rocking, and then 5 minutes later the photographer's like, "Hey, I'm only booked till 10 o'clock. I got to get out of here. I got to cut the cake now." Look, I get it that you're only there till 10 o'clock, and I totally can, like, I understand that's when you're contracted, but you have to see it from all aspects. I think it's one thing like the catering hall. It's another thing like the catering hall, we can sort of, like, we're there in enough time where we can talk to them. We can sort of start to make nice on all the things. The one thing that I always see, and I think what actually sort of forced my hand to have a full photography and videography company underneath me, is that I don't work with photographers and videographers on a regular basis. It's not like one company that I see all the time. I do see guys from time to time, and it's great. But like I found that could be a wild card sometimes. If you don't have a relationship with the photographer and videographer, look, their main goal sometimes is just to get their shot. And if you don't have a relationship, if you don't try to, at the beginning of every event that there's a videographer at, what are they asking you for? Hey, you got an output? You got an output? And yes, I do have an output. I have multiple outputs, and I will be cool about that output so long as everyone is cool throughout the night. But it's one of those things that, like, I can't tell you how many times I've ran into the cake needs to be cut at 9:50, no later. If it's cut after 9:50, the photographer's not staying. They're not gonna take pictures. I will never understand that. Like, I understand that people are contracted, but like, if a night is going and a night, like, I'm there to be a team player. Like, if you need something, I'm there. If you want to take the bride and groom outside, give me a 5-minute heads up, because I could be on the microphone calling them and saying, "Hey, let's get the bride and groom out here. Let's do this. Let's do that." But they're outside taking pictures. Yeah. But I don't know, because the photographer and videographer didn't feel the need to tell me. So it's like, it's super important with all that. And I think that's why I started the video side of things and the photo side of things, was because my guys, it's seamless. Yeah. I know when they're going to take the bride and groom outside. I know when they're going to do ring shots. I know how much time they're going to need to set up to do the toast, the prayer, all of that stuff. Even lighting. Yeah, even lighting. Like, they're going to need time to set up lighting. And especially with the way videos are going now, it's like, it's so cinematic. It's so important that they have the right lighting, that I know all this is going to, but there's certain times when I don't know the photographer. I don't know the videographer. Like, hey, can I put my strobes so that every time I take a picture, I'm flashing you as the DJ? Yeah. All these things, like, these are all things. And now, being in the industry for a longer time, there's not as many companies that I haven't worked with, but there's always still those new, there's new guys that come out. And I think, like, just as important as the relationship with the venue is to sort of foster that relationship with photographer, videographer, anyone that might be a part of that event. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it. For me, I know it was enough where I just said, I got to start my own.
Same thing. Like, I mean, in a sense, another aspect, we started in the sense of, like, back to the caring. We're back to caring again. We've had clients, like, you want things to work right, so everything needs to be in sequence. Like, I don't know if it's just the way my brain works, but everything needs to flow. Like, it needs to have a flow. And another thing is, like, we've dealt with scenarios where, not to bring up, like, negativity, but, like, some videographers, photographers just aren't professional, or, whatever the scenario is, and, like, you're dealing with scenarios where you're cleaning up their mistakes, trying to make things happen. Like, I've literally had a wedding where the bar, or the videographer and photographer were at the bar getting drinks right when intro was about to start, and I didn't start until I got them. I literally was like, okay, can someone find our videographer, photographer? No one knows where they're. They went to the hotel bar in the front to get drinks, and this was during intros, and I was like, Tim brought up before, like, yo, you can't start, like, it's for the bride and groom. You can't start this wedding because these photos are important. When we're done with the day, when on the DJ aspect, we're done. But they get this photo, like, they plan so far in advance. They want this media. They want this photos and video. It's like, dude, like, and it was crazy. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this guy, and he literally came in. Sorry, guys, we're at the bar. Everybody, the banquet manager's freaking out. Like, you got to start. And I'm like, they'll listen, but, like, this is for the bride and groom. I'm not going to start until they're in this room. It was crazy. It was a pretty hectic scenario. But, yeah, it's like you said, we have the video photo aspects of our company because just want things to be seamless. Segue, just work real nice, And also, clients love us. That's it.
Yeah, I mean it's important. I think the relationships between everyone on the wedding day is important. I know even so much as some of the ones that we did last year where there was a planner on the event. There's certain scenarios where I get it, other scenarios where I don't. I think if everyone's working together and if that introduction has been made and there's some correspondence, the day of is awesome. It's seamless. But if there's nothing done beforehand, it's almost like you're just walking in blindly. Yeah. And they're just as important as I am. And that's the thing. It's a delicate dance, like between everyone to ensure that the event is as good as it can be and that there's no hiccups. Yeah. To make a bride wait 5 to 10 minutes, or to make even worse, to make a groom wait that has just taken 40 pictures, posed pictures, it's not going to work.
Out in the sun.
Yeah, out in the sun. They want to get in. So it's really important. I think it's definitely one of these things that we take a lot of pride in. I know, but it's also something that if I need to be the guy the day of to hold people accountable, that's also what I'm there for. And I think that goes back to the original point of I'm not just a DJ. I'm not just an MC. I'm there in the planning process. I'm there as a resource. If my clients want to call me at 2:00 in the morning and say, hey, Tim, we're in between garden roses and hydrangea, what do you think? Well, I might not have the most information on it, but I'll put in my piece, because I've gone through this before. I'm married myself. I went through the process, did all of it. I want my brides and grooms to see me as a resource. I don't want them to see me as a person who's collecting a paycheck, because for me, I will never sell my bride and groom on something that does not add value to their wedding. And that's just how I am as a person. If that's goes to what you say, well, why do you want this at your wedding? And then I personally will say, this is how it adds value on top of what they're already thinking. It's super important, but we're there really honestly as more than just a DJ or just an MC. It's really the conductor of the whole entire day. And that's really what's important to me. And I think, that goes to, because we've been doing this so long, we have the experience and we have the knowledge of how to go through all of this. I guess that would lead me sort of to, what do you guys see on a wedding day that you don't necessarily, what do you see in this industry that you don't agree with? Whether it's something on the day of, something in the planning process, something just within the industry. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, one of the things I really think brides and grooms should consider when they plan it out, and this will kind of roll into both of the things you just brought up, Tim, is the events that are really important to their wedding. And I'm going to bring up something, and I'm going to, everybody in this room is going to ooh and ah a little bit. Things that do not necessarily help us from the DJ point of view that go on at weddings. Viennese hours, cigar rollers outside, anything that takes people out of the room in which the party is occurring. Now, I realize that a lot of these things are very important to brides and grooms. I just think that you have to think about what's really, really important to you. If a party is really, really important and a rockin' dance floor, a lot of people on the dance floor with you, you have to weigh the pros and cons of doing a lot of other things at your wedding that's going to remove people from being in the party area, the dance floor room area. I understand that the desserts are super important, and the Viennese hours, are grand and are things that people talk about, but they do take people out of the room. At very least, you're going to remove people out of the room for 20 minutes. And, it presents a very, very unique challenge to whoever's DJing, MCing, whatnot at your party to bring them back to wherever they were before they were removed from the floor. The same thing, cigar rollers. I understand it's definitely cool. A lot of times people want to incorporate it because, it gives, I'm putting it there because my dad and his friends, they don't dance, so, we want to give them something to do. I totally get it. But when every guy in the wedding now wants to go out and get a cigar roll, a lot of the women at the wedding are going to go outside because the guys went outside. So, these are all things that I'd like to talk about with the bride and grooms. They're like, oh, well, we want to do a cigar roller. Cocktail hour, perfect time to do it. Not the last hour of your wedding, which is, always the prime time, for everybody wilding out. So, these are just things to consider. I mean, there's workarounds with it, and it goes back to trying to build a relationship with your bride and groom. I want them to see us as not just the people that are going to be playing the music or showing the content or, announcing us when we walk out, but utilize us as resources and, people that go through this, 100 times a year. And I really enjoy working with brides and grooms that want my input on that, and we'll definitely take it into consideration. Like I said, these are important things: the Viennese hours, the cigar rollers, and anything else. Bars on the patio. Some venues have beautiful outside, beautiful patios, but they do create different challenges, and so I think brides and grooms need to kind of really, with incorporating the things that use the things that we say, incorporate it and develop that idea of what's really, really important to them. Some of those things, if you want a rock and dance party, might not be the things that you want to incorporate at your wedding, or, like Mike said, move them to different times. Yeah. Cigar roller for cocktail hour.
I say if you got a Viennese hour, just listen. I recommend to add that extra hour
100%.
Because it will be 40 minutes of people just eating dessert and then trying to figure out how to get back up. Some people are lit up on sugar. Some people are lit up on espresso. But no, I agree. I mean, I never really thought about this question before. I don't really like I said, because my brain's always like, what's going to happen next at an event? The whole question of like, hey, listen, like what I don't agree with. I just kind of accept the fact that every event's just kind of roll the dice, unless it's one of these like cookie cutter venues, But I mean, I never really thought about it. I mean, I have to agree with Jay on all the stuff that he brought up. It's pretty interesting.
I mean, it's something over the last couple of years, like I've actually like had a lot of bride and grooms go, no, man, we're not doing that Viennese hour because we want the party. And that was something I didn't really experience a few years ago. So I do see the trend and people starting to realize that. I have been noticing, going back to a little bit of trends of 2019, and this trend definitely started last year in 2018, is a lot of, venues that have a lot of outside stuff incorporated. And that's where, like, I started noticing, the patios and different things like that. Utilizing the outside spaces a little bit more early in the wedding for cocktails is good because you want them to want to come in later. Some of these venues that are outside, a little rustic, offer something very, very unique to the client, but they present other challenges. Tim will attest, we've done a lot of outside.
Yeah, I mean, how far the bathroom is. I mean, one of the things we saw is the bathroom was too far, and people just started going to the bathroom right outside the tent.
Oh man.
But this is also growing pains for these venues. I think too is that. This is new to them. Most of your barn farm weddings are basically, hey, this was something that we saw as a trend and we jumped on it, and now it's our life. This is how we make a living, and I'm totally with it because I think it's great, and I think it's giving brides and grooms like a different option. But these are all things that you have, like, it's a game of numbers. 20% of your guests are not going to dance sheerly because they're smoking a cigarette, they're getting a drink, or they just don't dance. So now if you take that 20%, you're at 80%. Now you take a couple of them away because there's an outdoor element. You take a couple of them away because, there's stuff to see in the foyer, or there's a bar outside or whatever. You've whittled your party down to 40, 50%. And it's difficult. I mean, when you're doing a party and there's only 150 people and you take away 50% of those people, you're now trying to play to a crowd that's a lot smaller than what you initially started with. So it's definitely like, I don't necessarily mean to say you don't agree with it, because there's definitely workarounds. It's sort of just like, and it goes back to like caring. You're caring about your client, you're caring about your customer, you're telling them, look, I have 15 years experience in this. I have whatever X amount of years experience. Like, this is what I have seen. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, that's what most people are paying for, is because of the fact that, you're a resource to them. And I think, there's definitely other aspects to it. But it's sort of saying, look, if you want to incorporate this, do it during your ceremony. I do it a lot with music. There's a lot of times when people will say, I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. Totally get it. Cool. We're from Jersey. I get it. But not every Bruce Springsteen song is a party rocking song. So where do I get it? Where do I put it in? Where do I fit it into the day? Cocktail hour, ceremony, the end of the night, when we're sitting people down for dinner, when we're sitting people down to get dessert. And that is important. Like, you always want to bring a person's style throughout their wedding, musically, decoration wise, and whatever the case that they're trying, whatever their style is trying to get across. But I think it's really important to be honest and upfront, and so that you're managing expectations. So when you get to the event, I've done where we've had a rocktail hour. They wanted a lot of rock at their wedding, but they were smart enough to realize that not everyone dances to rock. So what did we do? We did a rocktail hour. I like that. It's literally all rock music during their cocktail hour. So people were coming into the reception already like tuned up, like already like feeling great, feeling awesome. Like, yeah, that's like, that's Jeff and Leslie's, that's their style. That's so cool. And then we rock them with music that we know works, while pulling through some rock music that we know people are gonna, dance to and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's important. I mean, that's all stuff like, we're here as resources to make sure that we keep them away from these pitfalls and all these things. But music's very important, and I think bringing music throughout the style that someone wants is just as important as the content that we show on the screen. Mm-hmm. If someone leaves a wedding and it was an awesome party, but the bride and groom didn't like any of the music, you know what I mean? Like, it's important. It's important. Like, we've done it before where, it was like, this song needs to be played. Well, where do we fit it in? Or you come, there's 30 minutes left in a wedding, and the bride and groom come up to you and say, I know I didn't tell you this song, but I absolutely need this song. Yeah. Do you slow it down? Do you wait? Is it a song that you can play at the last song of the night where you get everyone in a circle around the dance floor? Have you guys ran into this? I mean, I know I have, and I know music to me is important to bring forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened to me a couple times, and I tried telling the bride or groom, like, now's not the appropriate time, because if I play this energy so high that you don't know what will happen, the dance floor might clear. And the bride's like, no, I want it now. So I'm like, okay, I'll do what you want. And the dance floor, it ends up clearing. Yeah. So I feel like, just because they want a song, it has to be the right time and the appropriate time, because it could disrupt the dance set really quick.
Yeah, I think the time is everything.
Well, I mean, I think, again, in the planning process. So much goes back to the planning process. I mean, I think if anybody, brides and grooms are listening, to this podcast, the biggest thing that I keep going back to is that utilize what we know. Sit down with us. Like, we're not tied to wanting you to do any specific thing. We just want to get a vision of what you want so we can execute it. What Tim said with the Rocktail Hour is awesome. Anytime we can incorporate music that's, let's say, a background time of music, which would be, cocktail hours, dinner hours, pre-ceremony, all that stuff. Anytime that you can, use those times to really make the wedding about you, and just setting that vibe, like Tim was saying with the Rocktail Hour, or, we love the Rocktail Hour. We're about it. But we're doing, the idea of farm, outdoor, rustic type venues is becoming more and more popular. I just off the top of my head, I would say, like, maybe Frank Sinatra Cocktail Hour isn't the most appropriate for that because it's not really going to fit with the way your venue is. So that might be like kind of a nice upbeat country music that might fit that if that's something that the bride and groom are interested in, which is, kind of maybe why they were choosing that venue to begin with, as we're like a, very marbly, elegant type of venue is where you want to go with a Sinatra style cocktail hour. Just to, I had to get that in, before we got too far off the off the topic of that. Rocktail Hour. We just say it one more time.
So in our approach, and like I agree with everybody here. Like, there's definitely time frames. Obviously, the meetings in advance, you discuss some of the odd songs, and you like one of the things I think kind of you guys will agree with me with is that you have the client explain to you why that song's important to them, whether it's their friends when they're in college or grandma, and then as an MC, I use that as like a pitch. Like, sometimes I'm just like, listen, do you know what? I know this is gonna bomb the dance let. The bride wants it right now. But if you get a little back information on why that song works, you can pitch that song to the crowd. But guys, listen, what's up? We're going to go off beaten track real quick. Our bride really likes the song. We need everyone here to come sing along with her. Finding Uncle Barry. That's a new movie. It's going to come out 2019. And just pitch it to the crowd. And sometimes, like, if you really sell it to the crowd, people might not necessarily dance to it, but they'll understand the value of it sometimes. And then from there, you try to, then that's where the professional, or, the experience comes where you're like, yo, what do I do after the song to get it rolling to match what's being played now, but to get the dance floor rolling in how you just had it? Because sometimes you just got to do it, and it's just, you're just like, ooh, but it's your client, and it's like I said, find the content, find the value of why they want that song, and sell it to the rest of the room. I think Jay's seen me do it before.
I remember a certain guy pulling out the Notre Dame theme and absolutely rocking the end of a wedding.
Just yell at everyone.
But I mean, that's how you deal with the bride throwing you the audible, where during the high energy peak set of maybe the last half an hour of a wedding, the bride comes up to you and I need this now. She's your bride, so you have to take care of it. And the one rule that as an MC that always helps you kind of is if the bride's on the dance floor, it's never wrong.
Yes.
So if she has a request, even if it's completely off of what's going on right now, you could just tell her when she asks you for you, look, I got no problem playing it, but you're not going to let me down, right? You got my back on this, right? And then you bring her out to the floor and you say, you're not going to party with your bride? Listen, everybody in that room is going to get up and party with the bride. I don't care how obscure the song is. It's just the way you're selling it and not getting frustrated and being able to, deal with stuff on the fly. I mean, I think everybody in this room is,
We're throwing audible now. Ready? Scenario.
Oh, here we go. Test round.
The last song's already played. The bride comes up. Banquet managers are looking at you like, you're done. But she's like, listen, we really want this song. Do you play the song and say, F you, banquet manager? We love you, banquet managers, but, we're getting paid by the bride and groom. Or do you somehow pitch to her and tell her that you can't play that last song? I mean, my opinion would be play it. F it.
Yeah.
Play it.
Start breaking down everything else. Let the song run.
This goes back to the relationship that we have built 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours before the wedding even started. Yeah. I always, because we've ran into, you will absolutely kill a night. That one last person that says you're a jerk for not playing that will completely, I've seen Jay literally throw down his headphones, and stomp off, because it was like one of these things where it was like, we just provided the best experience you've ever been a part of. But I feel like absolute crap because I didn't play that last song because the banquet hall manager is staring at me and had already told me that at 11:58 you are done, not 12:01. So it goes back to that, and I bring this up a lot at the weddings that I did in 2018. I started to really say to the banquet hall manager, look, I've seen this happen. It's been done. I just want to let you know, like, and I try to, like, I talk to them throughout the night, but I just want to let you know that if this happens, how are we going to handle it? Yeah. And I use a good trick, too, is I put it on the banquet hall manager. I will literally get on the microphone and say, look, and I already know his name. If Julian says it's okay,
Straight call.
then we'll play it. I have no problem playing it, but Julian's got to say it's okay. It takes the onus off of me. I'm no longer the jerk. And at the end of the day,
They feel good. They're like, hey, it's not
everyone's yeah. So I definitely have found that, like, by putting the attention on someone else, but that relationship that we've already built, most people, look, I've saved catering hall before because of the fact that they screwed up on so many things. But they said to me, is there any chance you can go 20 minutes over so that we look better? Sure. Because the next time I go down there, I'm going to say, remember that time? And guess what? The next time I went down there, every single person in that catering hall remembered me. Yeah. Because the bride and groom went from asking for money back before the wedding even ended to being so happy after that 20 minutes that they didn't even care anymore. Yeah. So it's the whole relationship, and I'm a huge fan of. I think it's super important that you manage expectations. Yeah. I always let my bride and groom know there are certain things that are in my control, and there's other things that just aren't in my control. Now, is a person who's absolutely hammered and just a guest at the wedding going to care? Do they know when they're asking me when we're already done? No, they're not, which is why I usually divert the attention to somebody else and deflect that so that, because I've had it. I've left a wedding where I was like, wow, I crushed it for 4 hours, and then that last 2 minutes made me feel this big.
Those last songs, it's crazy they say, like, the most memorable songs are like how the night ends. Some people forget about some of the dance sets in the beginning, but like, everything you brought up is 100%. Like, if you can properly, I call it pitching and selling. Like, if you can pitch it and sell it to everybody, right, do it. But my also thing is, like, if it's a guest that I don't know who this guest is or what kind of relation, I'm like, I don't know who you are, but I'll smile to you and be like, hey, listen, like, did you have a good time? I always I'm like, yo, did you have a good time tonight? They're like, yeah. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, listen, unfortunately, we just can't play this last song. Like, we just can't do it right now. But if it's a bride and it's a groom, I'm just like, listen, sometimes you just got to do it, But like Tim said, I've never really thought about that. I'm going to definitely use that. Like, in the beginning of the night, talk to the banquet manager. Like, hey, listen, like, this might happen. What are we going to do when it happens, But and also in another perspective, like, the planning process. This is why you have the planning process. You want to make sure the bride and grooms are like, hey, listen, like, this is why you had months and months and months to pick these songs. But sometimes you get that one song that you're like, listen, like, I've had it so many times. I mean, like, almost like a high percentage of events where the bride and groom, like, I forgot about this song. I forgot about the song that I really, really, really want. And you're like, all right, let's make it work. Let's figure it out, But cool, let's figure I'd just throw that in there, pitch it. I was just curious.
Thanks.
He definitely does. Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, we keep going back to, like, some of these certain keys where, we're a resource. We're here. There's certain things throughout the night. Now, my biggest thing is, while all this is going on, how do you guys deal with, I'm only as good as the last event I did in most people's eyes. Everyone at that event could potentially be a client for me. So we're on on stage, we're auditioning for our next job. But what I've seen and what I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because I feel like we sometimes are getting paid. So, but how do you guys deal with social media? Do you think it's okay? Do you even bring it up to the bride and groom before, during the planning process? My thing is if you have enough people on an event that you can sort of skirt around all of this. If it's staffed properly and you have a person and you're not taking yourself away. However, if you're interacting during a wedding, like for me, I feel like social media, the day of an event, like going live or something, is sometimes perceived as wrong, because you're getting paid to be attentive and be in the moment with their wedding, not a crowd. But at the same time, you have to be mindful of how do you capture certain things. You know, how do I capture a moment that's happening throughout a wedding, but I don't have a videographer there? All I have is my phone. You know, I post my setup. I post certain clips. But I tend to do it either before the wedding even starts or after the wedding, the night of. You know, like I'll go home and as I'm unwinding, I'll post something, or the next day. What do you guys see? How do you guys see? What's your take on social media, and what's your take on advertising that event?
I think social media is pretty big. I mean, I try and go live sometimes throughout weddings. And even if I don't have like any type of video, I'll just set up like a GoPro, let it record, and not even touch it for like 45 minutes, and then go back home and see what were some great points through it. But I feel like you definitely can use social media at the same time, be attentive to the wedding as well. And another way to do is like sometimes like if I have like 3 or 4 guys on the job, and I say like one of them's like a roadie, I'd be like, hey, listen, take my phone. Every once in a while, go out there, shoot an Instagram clip, Facebook, whatever you got to do to get some content to put it on all the social links, because I feel like, you know, you want people to see what you're doing and how big the parties are, and you want to go live to let people know like what it looks like live, and not just a video with music behind it. Now you're kind of getting like that live action, like maybe even hearing like the MC talk, the DJ mixing, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that social media, like as far as using it too much at a wedding, it's kind of a case by case basis. You know, some brides absolutely want you have to go live the whole wedding and they love it.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you could, you know, and you get to know them about that in the planning process. You know, other brides are just, you know, they're a little more to themselves. They don't really use social media. That wouldn't be a wedding where I would think I would want a lot of guys with cameras, you know, but we don't really ever, I don't think any of us ever really let it interrupt anything that's going on, you know what I mean? Usually there's other people at the wedding that are helping, like a roadie, you said, that, you know, can shoot some social media and where it doesn't disrupt anything. But as far as like the going live aspect and using different aspects of it live at the wedding, I think it just depends on the bride and groom, you know, like especially the
100%.
bride. I mean, usually grooms are not really like over, but some brides love it. Like they want to go live. They're taking selfies. They're out there with their camera the whole time, you know, and the other brides are more reserved. So I think you just play that out by that. I mean, again, it's kind of just goes back to the process, like, you know, whatever's making them happy, you know, like
Ask the right questions.
You know, I think that's.
I've run into scenarios where, you know, I always talk about it, and I ran into a scenario a long time ago, and apparently he was a doctor, and there was like a lot of other doctors in there it was like kind of like a high profile like type of wedding, and then I took photos. It wasn't even a live scenario. It was I took some photos and put them up, and then I got like an email like that week, like, can you please take these down? And then that's when it really started registering me. And this was years ago. This is when like Facebook and everything started really becoming a big deal. And then I was sitting there thinking like, wow, like, you know, I never really thought about this. Of some people don't want, you know, like be on a dance floor completely drunk. It could affect your life. You know, some scenarios are like that. That's why I ask, you know, a lot of my clients, like, hey, listen, if I go live with this, are you cool with this? And I always tell them, because, you know, usually when we go live, it records video footage. Like, listen, it's not professional video footage, but maybe you can get something cool out of it. We'll give it to you at the end. Usually they're like all about it. Like you said, 90% of the time they're like, yo, I'm all about this. And just like even other aspects, it's like, you know, I look at it in a marketing perspective. It's super cool to show the awesomeness you do. Like you said, a lot of clients, they want to see you MC. You know, they like, you know, we're sitting in my facility today, but, you know, we have it so we can demonstrate. We can show clients like what they can look forward to versus just like, here, you didn't see my video online? That's it's 1 minute long on Instagram that doesn't have anything other than just cool dance clips, like, you know, they want to see that. And when they see that, sometimes that's an instant sales point. But also I see it like another perspective. Like sometimes we'll take content and we won't post it for months. I'll save it because sometimes, like, you know, I see a lot of people posting their content that weekend and then they don't post anything for like months or whatever the case is. I always say, hey, you know, like scatter it out there. Don't make it look like you're really busy for like that one weekend and then you're slow for the next 2-3 months, you know. And there's like, and also, you know, in another perspective, in a business scenario, sometimes, like, listen, there's a lot of young kids that have a lot of money that can buy all of the stuff that we have. I try not to post too much of what I'm doing. If you guys notice, like my social media, I've been backing off a little bit on posting too much content of what we do because I start to notice a lot of duplication. You know, like, I hate to say it, like, you know, unless you invented something, expect duplication, you know? So I try not to let people know too much and then kind of refine my meetings with my clients with all the really, really cool stuff that we do. But just give them enough so they reach out or they see it and they see that you're active and you're still doing new stuff. So there's a lot of factors in that. But I mean, the whole going live and posting stuff on social media, for me, it's important. But like I said, there's boundaries. It's starting to get to that point where there's boundaries. You know?
I think it does need to be respected that I think we all do. We respect the fact that at the end of the day, it truly is it's a private party. Like, you know, if any of us are booked in a nightclub, it's a public event. You know what I mean? It's a profile public event, as opposed to any wedding is legitimately a private party. So, you know, that's why I think dealing with the clients ahead of time and talking to them about what they want, like, you know, I said, one bride from one day will be like, of course, I want it as live as possible. I want as much footage of that wedding everywhere and everywhere. Anywhere extra, can I sponsor the ad? Can we put it up more? Can you play it in the parking lot? And then the next bride will be like, you know, I just kind of want to keep it to ourselves. And, you know, the people that are at the wedding are important to us, and that's why they're there to see it. So, you know, you just take it for what it is, and just like everything else, you just go with what makes them happy. And like I think all of us are kind of cool with it either way, you know.
Well, one thing is that, you know, because we have photo booths. Most of us have photo booths these days. Years ago, we used to post the photo booth photos for people to download, but it started getting to the point where it's like we've had phone calls, like not even from the client, from like someone that's in the photo booth, like, I didn't know this was going to be on Facebook. And then we stopped doing that years and years ago because, you know, listen, sometimes when you have an enclosure, it gets crazy in there. You know, like, you know, it gets very interesting to say the least. But yeah, we don't post any more photo booth photos on the internet ever. Even if like, yeah, it gets weird.
If the client wants to post it, they're more than welcome, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, for me, it's a fine line of we're always auditioning for our next job. 90% of my clients are from word of mouth. Either they've been at an event I've done, or they heard from somebody that, you know, that, hey, this guy's really good, you should check him out, whatever. I don't have the money to advertise like some of the bigger companies do. You know, it's huge. I mean, for me, and I don't necessarily want to compete with some of the companies that do the advertising they do, because that's not really, like, that's not my style. I would rather take the time, take the energy to set something up like this, like a forum we're in, where I've already learned more in the last hour and a half from you guys than really any other place I could. And now I'll take the stuff that I've learned, stuff I've liked, you know, and start to apply it. I mean, you know, and I think that's what sort of gives us that personable, all of us. I think we can really start to, you know, link with these brides and grooms, and they feel like they can actually, like, they can link, they can connect with us. Yeah. And that's what it's about, you know, trust. Most people do this once, twice, maybe 3 times in their life. You know, it's a huge responsibility. And I mean, I take it so seriously. I really, honestly, like, when someone I know has me a part of their wedding, it's like the biggest honor ever. I mean, when someone I know doesn't have me and I sit there at their wedding and it gets stressful. It's actually more stressful for me not to be a part of their, yeah, not to be a part of my, when I'm not a part of someone's wedding, I know it's more stressful because that's what you start doing. You start questioning things. You start wondering when's this happening, when's that happening. It's inevitable. So, when someone says, "Hey Tim, I want you to DJ my wedding, be a part of my wedding," whatever part of their wedding they want me to be a part of, it's a huge honor. I have people that I went to high school with. I have people that I went to college with, that for them to say, "Hey, you know what, let's have Tim Hughes do our wedding." It's huge. And I take that, and it's a huge responsibility, but I love it. It's such a great thing to deliver for someone that and not just deliver, but over deliver and blow things out of the water. But it's very important. Word of mouth is very important. I don't know about the knot and wedding wire and all of that. Like, I've had hundreds of leads come in where people are price shopping, or people, do you pay into it? Do you not pay into it? Are you the best of because you paid $120 per month? So it's there's a super fine line of all of that. I mean, I spend so much time and so much effort posting content, connecting with brides and grooms and all of that. I mean, there's times I'll go out and I'll fly the drone just so I can capture something so that someone sees it and says, "Hey, that could be a cool piece to my wedding." Yeah. But when I go outside, it's like, what am I doing? There's nothing I'm really trying to capture here, but I'll put something together, whatever, no big deal. So it's definitely, we're always sort of on, and from that aspect, it's for me to promote my business is mainly through word of mouth. I mean, what do you guys see? What do you think? At the end of a wedding, what do you want your bride and groom to walk away thinking, to feel? What's your end goal?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's exactly it. I want them to be like, wow. I want them to be wowed by the day. I mean, and just overly happy with, what took place and the story that went on throughout the course of the day. I mean, the end of a wedding is just so much emotion for people, because it's the end of a journey, and we actually took the ride with them for that journey for a good part of it. I want them to be just genuinely happy. I want to see smiles, and the smiles come from a lot of different reasons that we could have helped create it. And, a lot of people at their wedding want to be happy for themselves. They want everything that they wanted. There's different types of brides and grooms. They want everything a certain way, and the only thing that'll make them happy is it being exactly what they want. Yeah. So I want to see that type of bride and groom happy. I also want to see the type of bride and grooms that are, you get other types of bride and grooms that are like party hosts. They just are more worried about everybody else having a good time at their wedding. And they just want to look around and see people that smiled and enjoyed the food and had a ton of time dancing. And, so I want to see those brides and grooms smile too. So that's really it. I just want to see happy faces. And you could genuinely tell. Like, I don't want to see, like, I'll tell you what I don't want to hear. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. I want them to be like, oh my God. And I want them to just want to hug me. Yeah. Because that's when I know I went above and beyond. If a bride and groom tell you, no, it was great, everything was good. Well, I want them so overcome with emotion. What's that?
You wait for the but.
Yeah.
You wait for them to be like, it was good, but.
Well, you didn't play, or so-and-so didn't dance, or, we sat for an awful long time. Could be any one of the things that we talked about, like, in the course of the last hour or so. So I guess, the wow factor and the being overcome with emotion, like you could tell when somebody's overcome with emotion, like you could look at their, the face that they had at the end of the ceremony is the same face you want at the end of the entire reception, so anything we could do to create that, to get that result, that's really all I want to see. And it's different for each bride and groom, but
yeah, it's definitely different for each bride and groom. But Definitely that you always the wow factor, and that's where the caring comes into play. Caring, but it's like it's difficult sometimes at the end. Like I usually get a lot of comments because we send out a little thing like, please fill out a review. Tell us about your wedding. Then have them see if, ask them if they can fill something out for the not if they had a great time. But that's what we notice a couple weeks later is when we start to really get the bride and grooms like, yo, it was awesome. People won't stop talking about the wedding. But I've noticed sometimes at the end of the wedding, they're being rushed. Everyone's trying to say goodbye. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. You barely even have time to say goodbye to them while packing up, are the cases. But I mean, that's what we live for. Is for the wow. Is that like, hey, listen, like we were here. You chose us. It's only our duty to make you wow. At the end of your wedding, like like we don't want you to like you said. No, it's cool. It's cool. Like enjoy the drinks. You want it to be like, hey, listen, we're the entertainment. We did this. We want you from beginning to end just be rocking and have that wow factor. But we've noticed, like I said, weeks later is when we get those phone calls like, listen, people won't stop talking about the wedding and how awesome it was, which is just like, for me, it's just super fulfilling. I'm like, wow, thank you so much. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing I don't ever want my brides and grooms ever to say, and I know we've all been in the position where we've been DJing somebody's wedding and somebody comes up at the wedding and goes, oh my God, I wish you guys did our wedding. I don't ever want to be on the other side of that. And so, like, as long as we can get that reaction from the bride and groom at the end, it lets us know that we did our job, and they're never going to be saying that. So when you know that it's their wedding day and they've actually said to somebody else, like, oh, we wish you had you, like, it's just no good. I don't think any one of us could live with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, when a bride and groom come up to you and say, listen, this was the best night ever, and they give you like a hug, it's like you feel like so accomplished. And like some of the weddings you do, these big productions, you're just like, wow, the bride and groom are super happy. They hugged me, this and that, and it just makes you feel so good. Yeah.
You don't feel tired. You don't feel tired at all. Like you leave. We could have. We could have been in there for 12 hours, 15 hours from the start of the load-in and setting up the production. And when they come up and that smile and they get that hug and you can genuinely feel like how happy they are about their day, like it's just the day just flew by. Like you go home and you're like, you're wired. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a huge part of of brides and grooms' lives. I mean, and there's not many other aspects of their life that they're gonna plan for this long. Look, I've gone through it. Getting married was more of a planning process than having a kid. You know what I mean? Like we put a lot of time, we put a lot of effort into trying to make it ours, and that's the biggest thing. When a bride and groom come up to me at the end of the night and they're like, you took our vision and brought it to life. That's, for me, that's a huge compliment, because everyone's vision is completely different. And just because someone tells me what their vision is doesn't necessarily that I interpret it right. But throughout the planning process, throughout getting to know them, I think that we sort of narrow down that gap of what their vision is and how I interpret it, so that when I deliver the day of, we're delivering their vision. I've ran into what Jay said, where people have come up to me and said, wow, I really wish I would have used you guys for my wedding. And that's a tough one to swallow, to be honest. I never want anyone to ever feel like they should have used someone else. Exactly. Because it's very, like I said, you do this once, twice, maybe 3 times in your life. You want to get it right. Yeah. And it's important. It sort of sets the tone for so many other things in life, but that's sort of how it is. We want to make sure that the brides and grooms, everyone's happy, the guests are happy, and on top of that, everyone else that touched that event was happy. Yeah. It might not be the first priority that the catering hall was happy, but when we leave and we can do the trifecta of the bride and groom were happy, the catering hall was happy, the photographer and videographer were happy, it's win-win for everyone, because all of those people are now going to become promoters for us. And that's what's important. I never want a bride and groom to ask a photographer or videographer, hey, have you ever worked with these guys? Yeah, they're complete jerks. Don't work with them. Everyone I work with, I treat them the same way I want to be treated. And I think that's important. I think all of us hold that same standard. And I think there's a lot of people in the industry that, you know, might think they're above it or whatever, but I think that we can all sit here and honestly say that, you know, I hold that very, very high to me. Like, I don't want anyone to ever have like a certain opinion on me or think I'm better than anything, because it's not. It's about caring about what the bride and groom want and bringing that vision to life at the end of the day. I mean, there's so much stuff that we talked about. I really, honestly, I'm like I said before, I feel so much more informed. I feel like I've learned stuff. There's definitely certain things that I'm going to take from you guys. Like Mike said, unless you invented it, it's probably going to be duplicated. And even if you invented it, it's probably going to be duplicated anyway. It's a big thing I see in this industry is everyone's like, oh, well, he took my style. Well, you know what? Do it bigger and better, and come back with better, you know, better stuff. And it's, you know, when people copy what we do, it's flattering. Yeah. So, but you know, to get all you guys sort of in one room together and get some information down on this, I mean, we're just about at 2 hours of like what I feel is a great forum of information. I think any bride or groom that were to listen to this, whether they listen to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or the whole 2 hours, is definitely going to leave listening to this better off than when they got in. Hopefully this sparks more conversation outside of this podcast. I think the biggest thing about the series of podcasts that I'm trying to put together is I want people to start talking. I want that gray area of the entertainment business to go away. I want people to understand what they're paying for, to understand what the expectations should be. And I want to get rid of the stigma that's sort of behind the whole industry, because I think that there's all too often there's this thing where it's like, yeah, bands get $15,000. It's $1,000 per piece. But if you book a DJ, you could find it for $500, $1,000, $3,000, maybe even $10,000. I want it to be like, no, you know, these guys are awesome, and this is why I'm not wasting money. I'm investing in my event. My wedding is going to be better because of these guys. So that's what I definitely, with this series of podcasts I want to put together. I mean, I can't thank you guys enough for being here, for putting your knowledge, and most importantly, for being real. I know all too often it's tough to really say what you want to say because of, you know, what people are how it's going to be perceived. But I think I speak for all of us. We were pretty real with what we thought, how we felt.
I don't think anything I said wasn't anything I would say to a client. You know, this is with the anticipation of clients seeing this, correct? You know what I mean? So it's exactly like how I feel, you know?
Yeah. No, it's great. And like I said, I mean, to get the four of us, I know it's not the easiest thing, but hopefully it's not the last time. Hopefully this is just the start of something that we can continue to just make better, make this industry better, and provide something that we'll look back on and say, yeah, this was a good turning point as to how we felt. So once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for taking the time, and definitely look forward to future podcasts. Let us know if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns. If you completely hate what we're talking about, let me know. djshoes@gmail.com.